Tower Keepers. Tower Keepers is a medieval city-running type of game which I've seen on the Congregate platform before. Your village has been recently invaded by the Lord of Suffering, Orok, and after a brief tutorial you are left to recruit heroes, explore areas, and rebuild society. Though there are a variety of heroes you can obtain, and there are plenty of levels you can get yourself involved in, the game itself works like a Facebook game, whereby you can't really get into what you're playing before your energy runs out. Furthermore, there is a special currency which you will have to buy with real money, and there isn't really anything new Tower Keepers introduces to this genre of gaming. It's decent if you're into medieval adventures, but not one I can recommend when you can play something else like Ebony. Laser Disco Defenders. Despite being a decently well-made game, I find Laser Disco Defenders isn't something I could easily get into. The basic story is that you're trying to save the universe from being musically dull. You're doing this by locating the ship of an evil robot named Monotone, who is trying to get his own music noticed. The gameplay involves you trying to locate the ship by floating through levels as the main character, and destroying any robots in your way. The interesting mechanic here is that any lasers produced by your gunfire or enemy gunfire in the current level do not leave the game until you reach the next level. It's an interesting concept, but it's also one which I feel gets boring after barely half an hour. What's more, if you run out of lives, you'll have to start from the very beginning of the game. It may be a fun one-off experience, but I can't really indulge myself into Laser Disco Defenders with a weird story and very repetitive gameplay. Still, it is more unique than other games on this list, and that I can appreciate about this game. Disc Jam. Disc Jam is all about its multiplayer experience, and has no story or offline single-player mode as such. The most you'll be able to do offline on your own is a tutorial, and even that is limited on how much you can do. This is basically a technologically advanced game of air hockey, in which you can challenge real players online or offline to a best out of 3 game. The graphics are good, and there are slight customization choices you can choose, such as character selection, but really you'll only have so much fun with this game before the gameplay feels like something you've played before. I will note, however, most online games similar to Disc Jam forget to add a 2-player couch mode, and the fact Disc Jam did add an offline mode for 2 players makes me realise this game isn't all about going online to meet new people. But I do feel, however, more single-player levels could have improved Disc Jam's performance. Long Gone Days. As RPGs go, this military drama doesn't introduce too much new to the genre, but I will admit the story didn't have me instantly falling asleep. Long Gone Days shines in its presentation. There are short cinematic cuts which make the game feel more special, different sprites and layouts used compared to other RPG games, and the music itself is something worth acknowledging. However, despite this, I still feel like Long Gone Days suffers the same issue many RPGs suffer, in which the game has a plot but it doesn't feel that important to the player. Some people may like to know what's going on, but I feel like when something happens in Long Gone Days, it just feels like another event as in any other RPG styled game. To the designer of the game who is currently developing this in early access, I'd say the game may need a skip button for some narrative, and maybe some of the narrative can be shortened to the point a player may take on what is said. But either way, Long Gone Days does shine compared to some other role-playing games. Revenge of the Kid. I came really close to calling this title Game of the Week, because narrative and storytelling are amazing in this game. The story runs similar to an old western movie. You are the kid, and you are hunting down all of your old friends who robbed you of a big score. The player interaction is minimal, as most levels involve you using a choice of up to 4 weapons to eliminate bandits on the way to your old friends. There are boss battles with said friends after each chapter, however after the first one is done, I feel like nothing really new happens with the other bosses. Yet seeing the kid progress level to level and looking forward to the funny jokes you get after each stage really makes the gameplay indulging and captivating. I would totally recommend playing Revenge of the Kid because it's a relatively short game that you may actually look back and remember. I May Die. Many times I have seen and acknowledged the existence of rage games, or games whereby you are meant to die multiple times before you get to know what you do. I May Die feels like a humble version of this before you actually try one of these rage games. Little is known about the backstory, although through a single narrative scene we know of a being who lives surrounded by a void. At the start of the game, the being accidentally falls into the void, and these platformer puzzles are what the being ends up finding. Now the puzzles themselves aren't incredibly challenging, but seeing as there are 8 chapters and I only ended up doing 1, I'm sure this could easily change. There are also boss levels, which may not be too well designed but still do act as a cool way of ending a stage. I just find this game absolutely charming, and seeing as it is free, I see no reason not to give it a go. Hence, Game of the Week is I May Die.